This is Jarrod McKenzie's favourite time of the day. He spends hours splashing in the water at his Melbourne home. The 22-year-old is autistic, has severe intellectual disabilities and needs care around the clock. But an unexpected letter from the National Disability Insurance Scheme changed everything.
We've got no funding, so we can't do anything. Can't go anywhere, can't see anybody, can't have normal lives anymore.
Jarrod's NDIS funding for carers was cut by more than half.
We weren't given any explanation other than it's not value for money, which was, I think, quite appalling.
The single mum had to quit her job to look after her son with no funding for the next 7 months. She says Jarrod has been self-harming more without his carers.
I hope something can be done quickly for our sakes, because mentally I'm not coping now, and I'm not going to be able to cope for another 7 months.
The President of Australia's peak disability rights body says hundreds of families have contacted them after having their funding slashed.
People who are autistic, people with intellectual disability and people with psychosocial disability seem to be the areas that are being most targeted right now.
Nick Bennett is one of them. The 20-year-old has autism, cerebral palsy and epilepsy. Last year his funding was halved. His parents say it's been a nightmare to get it reinstated.
They still demanded more evidence. They still demanded more reports. It just would never end, the amount of demands and pressure they put on a family.
We know that there was a plan for a razor gang to come in between April and August of last year, and that seems to have continued those cuts.
The cost of the NDIS is forecast to blow out to $40 billion within 3 years, fueling debate about the sustainability of the scheme. Already, there are nearly 500,000 people on the NDIS, up 17% in a year. And autism is the most common primary disability, making up a third of participants.
This government is shabbily and secretly cutting the strands of the net so people just fall through it.
8-year-old Max Drew has autism and an IQ in the top 1% of his age group.
All right, so not allowed to touch grass.
But his funding for these sports therapy sessions has been slashed by more than 40%.
He's just not going to reach his full potential without their funds.
Max's therapist says about half of his 200 clients have also lost funding.
To have the same services cut in half, I mean, the autism doesn't get cut in half, it's still there.
Minister for the NDIS, Linda Reynolds, says there have been no cuts to the scheme and the government has increased funding by $26 billion over 4 years to keep up with the rising costs, which are set to overtake Medicare in the next 3 years. Bridget Rollison, ABC News.